Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into 2 Samuel chapter 16.
A really pivotal chapter.
Absolutely. David's on the run, fleeing Jerusalem. His son Absalom, he's just walked into the capital, taken over. It's chaos.
Total upheaval. And this chapter catches David right in the thick of it, dealing with these intense encounters while he's escaping.
Right. And at the same time, we see these, well, frankly, shocking power moves happening back in Jerusalem.
Yeah. So our mission really is to unpack all that. What does it tell us about, loyalty, betrayal, the kind of advice leaders get?
Especially leadership under extreme pressure. How do
Yeah.
people react?
Exactly. The stakes are incredibly high here. People making choices fast, under duress. David's vulnerable.
Okay, let's get into it. David's just made it past the Mount of Olives. He's fleeing, and boom, someone shows up.
Yeah.
With supplies.
Yeah, this is Ziba. Now, remember Ziba? He was the steward for Mephibosheth.
Saul's grandson, the one David had shown incredible kindness to before all this.
That's the one. Restored his land, invited him to the royal table like one of his own sons. So Ziba showing up isn't totally out of the blue, but...
But the way he shows up, not empty-handed, that's for sure.
No, not at all. He's got donkeys loaded down. We're talking 200 loaves of bread, 100 cakes of raisins, 100 of figs, a skin of wine.
I mean, that looks like a serious timely aid package for David and his exhausted followers.
It really does. So
Yeah.
David naturally asks him, okay, what's all this for?
Makes sense.
And Ziba lays it out. Donkeys for the king's household to ride, bread and fruit for the young men, wine for anyone fainting in the wilderness.
Sounds great, right? Very thoughtful.
Totally. Seems like pure loyalty. So David then asks the obvious question, where's your master, Mephibosheth?
And here's where the story takes a sharp turn.
Uh-oh.
Ziba's answer is, well, pretty shocking.
Yeah.
He tells David, basically, Mephibosheth stayed behind in Jerusalem. Why? Because, Ziba claims, Mephibosheth said, today the house of Israel will give me back my grandfather's kingdom. Whoa! Hold on. Ziba's accusing Mephibosheth of seeing Absalom's coup as his chance to grab the throne back for Saul's line.
That's exactly the accusation. He's painting Mephibosheth as disloyal, opportunistic.
Wow. Talk about throwing your boss under the bus at the worst possible moment. How does David take this? Does he even question it? I mean, they're literally running for their lives.
There's no time for like a committee hearing or an investigation. David's fleeing. His reaction is immediate. And it's huge.
What does he do?
Based only on what Ziba just said, David declares, everything that belonged to Mephibosheth is now yours.
Just like that. He gives all Mephibosheth's property to Ziba.
On the spot, a massive transfer of assets based on one guy's word in the middle of chaos.
That is stunning. The speed, the severity, especially after David had been so kind to Mephibosheth before. It really makes you think about, well, how you assess loyalty when everything's falling apart. How vulnerable you are to maybe bad information.
Absolutely. And Ziba's response, I humbly bow. May I find favor in your eyes, my lord the king? He accepts immediately. It's done.
So Ziba gets what he wants, potentially through slander, and David moves on. An unsettling start to his journey out.
Very unsettling. Okay, so they continue on. They get near a place called Bahurim.
And here comes encounter number 2. Even more dramatic, if that's possible.
Right. A man comes out. The text identifies him straight away from the clan of Saul's family.
This is Shimei, son of Gera. And he's not just, like, heckling from the sidelines.
No, he comes out actively cursing David. And not just cursing, he's throwing stones and dirt at David, at his officials.
Even with David's bodyguards right there, the elite guard.
Yep, the text says David's guards were on his right and left. Shimei is right there, pelting them.
That's incredibly brazen. Practically suicidal, you'd think. What's he actually shouting? The curses must have been potent.
Oh, they were! He's yelling, get out, you man of blood, you scoundrel. He's blaming David directly for the fall of Saul's house, saying the Lord is repaying him for it now.
So he sees this whole situation, Absalom taking over. David fleeing his divine justice for David's past actions against Saul's family.
Exactly. He says, the Lord has handed the kingdom over to your son Absalom. See, your ruin is on you because you are a man of blood. It's intense, personal, and filled with historical grievance.
You can almost feel the years of bitterness boiling over. So how do David's men react? His loyal fighters must be furious.
Predictably, yeah. Abishai, who's one of David's top commanders, fiercely loyal. He immediately asks David, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and take off his head.
Okay, that's the reaction I'd expect. Protect the king, silence the threat. Quick and decisive.
The standard military response, right, but David's response is, well, it's completely different. Astonishing, really.
What does he say?
He actually pushes back against Abishai. He says, what do you and I have in common, you sons of Zeruiah? Like, why are you reacting this way? And then he floats this idea.
Yeah.
He says, leave him alone, let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. He even asks, if the Lord has told him, curse David, who are we to say, why have you done this?
Wait, David's suggesting God might actually be behind Shimei's cursing. That Shimei isn't just acting out of his own hate, but might be like an instrument of God's will in this moment.
That's exactly what he seems to be suggesting, or at least entertaining as a real possibility. He tells his men to leave Shimei alone.
Wow.
Then he kind of puts it in perspective. He says, look, my own son, my own flesh and blood is trying to kill me, so why shouldn't this Benjamite curse me?
So compared to Absalom's betrayal, Shimei's attack feels maybe less significant, or part of the same difficult reality he has to accept.
Perhaps. And he adds this little bit of hope. It may be that the Lord will look on my distress and repay me with good for his cursing today.
So he endures it. He takes the stones, the dirt, the curses, and tells his men to stand down, holding on to a hope that God might turn this negative into a positive later.
Exactly. They just keep walking, and Shimei keeps pace on the hillside, cursing, throwing stones, kicking up dust. Until finally, David and his men reach their stopping point, exhausted, and get some rest.
It really makes you pause. Why this tolerance? Is it deep humility? A profound sense of maybe deserving judgment? Or just being so overwhelmed by the main crisis that this feels like a sideshow he can't afford to deal with? It's such a contrast to Abishai's cut of his head impulse.
It definitely shows a different way of processing opposition and suffering, perhaps rooted in David's complex relationship with God and his own sense of fate or divine oversight, very different from a purely political or military calculation.
Okay, so that's David on the road. Intense stuff. Meanwhile, what's going on back in Jerusalem, the seat of power?
Right. Back in the capital, Absalom makes his entrance. The text is clear. He arrives with all the men of Israel. It signifies the takeover is, for now, successful.
And crucially, Ahithophel is with him, David's former top advisor.
Yes. His presence lends huge legitimacy to Absalom, and then another key figure appears.
Hushai the Archite, and the text specifically calls him David's friend.
Yeah, David's friend, and what does he do? He goes up to Absalom and cries out, long live the king, long live the king.
Okay, hold on again. David's friend is hailing Absalom as king. What is happening with loyalty here? Is everyone just jumping ship? This looks like another betrayal.
It definitely looks that way on the surface, and Absalom is immediately suspicious too. He calls Hushai out on it.
What does he say?
He asks him point blank, is this the loyalty you show your friend? Why didn't you go with your friend David? It's a direct challenge.
Good question. How does Hushai respond to that? He's cornered.
His answer is really interesting, very carefully worded. He says, no, the one chosen by the Lord and by this people and by all the men of Israel, his I will be, and with him I will remain.
The one chosen by the Lord, by this people. That's slippery, isn't it?
It is. He adds, furthermore, whom should I serve? Should I not serve the Son? Just as I served your father, so I will serve you.
So he seems to be accepting Absalom's current position, acknowledging he's the one who currently has the people's backing, but he doesn't exactly say, Absalom, you are God's choice forever. It feels like strategic ambiguity.
Exactly. Reading just this text, without knowing what happens later, Hushai gives an answer that Absalom can accept. It sounds like loyalty. It sounds like he's switching sides based on the new reality.
But it leaves room. He's serving the chosen one, whatever that might be, based on God and the people. Right now, that looks like Absalom. Clever, dangerous game he's playing.
A very dangerous game. It shows the kind of verbal tightrope people had to walk in these situations. So Absalom seems satisfied for now. He's got the city, he's got Ahithophel, and now apparently he has Hushai too.
So what's next? He needs a plan.
Right. He turns to the expert strategist, Ahithophel. Give us your advice. What should we do?
And Ahithophel's advice was legendary, wasn't it? Like hearing from God himself.
That's what the text says. His counsel was held in the highest regard by everyone, including David previously. He was the wise man.
So what wisdom does he offer Absalom?
His advice is immediate and utterly ruthless. He tells Absalom, go into your father's concubines, whom he left to keep watch over the house.
Whoa. Just whoa. Not military strategy, but that. Why? What's the point of such a deeply offensive public act?
Ahithophel explains the strategy right away. He says, then all Israel will hear that you have made yourself obnoxious to your father, and the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened.
Okay, so it's about making an irrevocable break By taking David's concubines, which was like claiming his royal property and status and doing it publicly?
Absalom makes reconciliation with David impossible. He's signaling there's no turning back. It forces everyone who supports him to fully commit. They're all in, because after that, there's no way David would ever forgive them if he regained power.
It burns the bridges, solidifies his support base by making their fate completely tied to his success. Brutal, but strategically.
Effective in a horrifying way. It removes ambiguity, and Absalom does it.
He actually goes through with it.
Immediately.
Yeah.
The text says they pitched a tent for Absalom on the palace roof, and he went into his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Public. Undeniable. Shocking.
A truly stunning display of power seizure. And the fact that this counsel came from Ahithophel, the man whose advice was considered like God's word, it really complicates things, doesn't it? It shows that wisdom, in a political or military sense, can be completely detached from, well, morality.
It certainly reflects the harsh realities of ancient Near Eastern power struggles. Consolidating power often involved symbolic acts, even shocking ones, to demonstrate dominance and finality.
So looking back at this whole chapter, T. Samuel 16, wow, we've got David on the run, making a snap judgment about Mephibosheth based on Ziba's possibly self-serving report.
Then facing Shimei's very public cursing and assault, but choosing this incredible restraint, maybe seeing God's hand in it.
And meanwhile, back in Jerusalem, we see Hushai's carefully worded, ambiguous pledge of allegiance to the usurper Absalom.
And finally, Ahithophel's wise counsel leading to that appalling public act with the concubines designed to cement Absalom's power.
It's just packed with human drama. Opportunism, hatred, calculation, faith, fear. It lays bare how loyalty fractures, how advice can be weaponized, and what leadership looks like when the world turns upside down.
Yeah, you see people reacting in wildly different ways to the same crisis. Allies become questionable, enemies might be tolerated, advice can be brilliant, but terrible.
It really does.
Wow.
Think about it. Shimei curses David, absolutely certain God is punishing him. David accepts the cursing, wondering if God is behind it, but hoping for future good. Ahithophel gives advice seen as divinely wise, yet it leads to this horrific act. So, a final thought maybe. What does this chapter challenge you to think about when it comes to figuring out people's real motives or the kind of counsel you trust, especially when things feel completely chaotic and uncertain? How do you navigate that kind of landscape? Something to reflect on.